I never believed my daughter would walk again. Until an amazing nanny transformed our lives. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other. I was juggling breakfast, the scent of burnt toast mixing with the aroma of fresh coffee. My hands trembled slightly, and I could feel the tightness in my chest. My daughter, Lily, sat there, her eyes glued to the TV, her little body so still, a stark reminder of her struggles. The accident stole her joy. I watched as she tried to smile, but the corners of her mouth barely lifted. Weeks turned into months, and the hope that filled our home faded like old paint on the walls. We had tried everything. Therapies, machines, prayers, nothing worked. Friends said, "She's a fighter," but how could I believe that when I saw her fighting every day just to get out of bed? Then came Samantha, our new nanny. From the moment she stepped through the door, she felt different. Something about her made the shadows in the room change. She was vibrant, full of energy, and her laughter filled the air like music. But there was more. I noticed her eyes seemed to glimmer with something mysterious, something powerful. When she looked at Lily, it felt like she was looking into her soul. Every time Samantha engaged with Lily, the atmosphere shifted. Her gentle touch, her kind words, it was like a spell. One evening, just as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting golden rays through the window, I felt a spark of hope igniting within me. I watched as Samantha encouraged Lily to try standing. My heart raced. Would this be the day? Then it happened. I gripped the edge of the sofa, my breath caught in my throat. Lily took a shaky step forward, and fell. My heart sank, but Samantha was there, lifting her spirits with a smile. "You can do it, sweetheart," she cheered. I watched helplessly as my daughter's eyes sparkled at those words, a mix of determination and disbelief. It was then that I noticed the flicker of something strange in Samantha's gaze. It was as if she knew something I didn't. What secret did she hold? What was this energy she brought into our home? The days moved fast, each overshadowed by mystery. Samantha often whispered strange phrases under her breath, and some days, Lily seemed more vibrant after their sessions. My heart raced with fear and hope. Could she really heal my daughter? Or was this too good to be true? As I stood in the darkened doorway, watching them, I was gripped by an insatiable curiosity. Why was Samantha so determined? What was her secret? Was she truly our last chance? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Days turned into an intricate tapestry of emotions, stitched together by moments of tentative laughter and lingering fears. The air was thick with unspoken thoughts as I navigated between hope and doubt, watching Lily flourish and retreat under the gaze of our extraordinary nanny. Samantha had a way of making the impossible feel attainable, but as my feelings grew towards her, so did my apprehension. One afternoon, while Lily was napping upstairs, I found myself in the kitchen with Samantha. The sun filtered through the window, casting a warm glow around us, but I couldn't shake the chill coiling in my stomach. With a shaky breath, I finally asked, "What's your secret, Samantha? How do you do this?" Her blue eyes flickered to mine, and for a moment, I thought she might evade the question, but instead, she leaned closer. "It's not about healing her," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper. "It's about reminding her of who she is deep down. The fire that still burns within her, waiting for the right push to reignite it." The depth of her sincerity sent a shiver down my spine. That sounds beautiful," I murmured, wrestling with my thoughts. Was this hope genuine, or was it simply a mirage glimmering just out of reach? As the week wore on, Lily began to show glimmers of her former self. She laughed more freely, especially during her sessions with Samantha. One evening, she even managed to pull herself up using the coffee table, her face a mixture of pride and disbelief. I clapped my hands in joy, my heart swelling with a fierce love that clashed against the haunting specter of doubt. But as the sun set, a dark cloud loomed over my thoughts. What if all this was just a momentary high? The following days introduced more unexpected turns. The neighborhood enveloped us in an uncharacteristically gentle embrace, with neighbors dropping off homemade meals and handwritten cards of encouragement. One elderly woman, Mrs. Lark, who lived 2 houses down, even came by with a bouquet of wildflowers. "I believe in miracles," she said, her eyes sparkling with warmth, placing a delicate hand on my shoulder. Such unexpected kindness felt like a balm to my weary heart. Still, I couldn't shake the growing suspicion that there was more to Samantha than met the eye. One night, I was tucked in bed, a storm brewing outside, when I heard hushed voices drifting from the living room. Peering through the crack of the door, I found Samantha deep in conversation with someone I couldn't see. "It's working," Samantha said, a fierce conviction in her tone. "But what if I can't keep it up?" My breath hitched in my throat. Who was she speaking to? And why the weight of urgency laced her words? Without thinking, I pushed the door open wider, but as if sensing my presence, the voice cut off abruptly. Samantha turned, her expression shifting from surprise to a careful mask of composure. The figure at her side vanished into the shadows, leaving only lingering questions in the air that hummed with tension. "Samantha. Who were you talking to?" I pressed, my heart pounding against my ribcage. "It was," she started, but hesitation flickered in her eyes, and doubt shadowed the space between us. "Just someone who wants the best for Lily." I felt the bottom drop out from under me. "But you've been keeping secrets. I need to know what you're doing, what's really happening here." Before she could respond, Lily appeared at the top of the stairs, a blanket wrapped around her like armor. Her voice was small, filled with confusion and concern. "Mom. What's wrong?" In that fraught moment, I realized something profound. My daughter had awakened and emerged from her cocoon, yet here I stood, caught in the crosshairs of doubt. I forced a smile, soothing my daughter's apprehension. "Everything's okay, sweetheart," I said, though guilt gnawed at my insides, but beneath the gentle facade, turmoil surged within me. There was hope, yes, it stirred quietly, but alongside it came questions thick as fog. I needed to know Samantha's truth, the depths of her intentions, the nature of her connection to this unexpected miracle. Night after night, I wrestled with clarity and mistrust, the linchpin of our fragile happiness hanging by a thread. I could not watch this hope unravel. I had to uncover the truth, even if it meant stepping into the darkness. As I prepared to confront Samantha for answers, a chilling wind swept through the open window behind me. The moment felt pregnant with portent, my heart pulsated with dread. Suddenly, I heard a soft thud upstairs, followed by a faint call. "Mom!" It was Lily. The words hung in the air, and I raced towards the stairs, every instinct screaming for me to reach my daughter. What awaited me would change everything yet again. The house was steeped in silence as I darted up the stairs, my feet barely grazing the wood as I clambered to reach Lily. "Mom!" She called again, the urgency in her voice laced with pain. I pushed open her bedroom door, my heart pounding in sync with the frantic thoughts spiraling in my mind. Lily sat on the edge of her bed, her tiny frame trembling slightly, and I could see the remnants of tears glistening on her cheeks. "What happened, baby?" I rushed to her side, brushing a stray hair from her forehead. I was trying to get my toy from the floor. She sniffled, her voice a wisp of vulnerability. "I wanted to show Samantha how I can pull myself up again." The sight of her little figure, wavering between determination and despair, struck a chord deep within me. My heart battled the fear that threatened to consume us both, layers of fear that had thickened with each day. "Did you fall?" I pressed gently, my hands taking hers for solace. A slow nod, and suddenly, the walls of our fragile world felt like they might crumble beneath the weight of what-ifs. I wanted to walk to you. I thought I could," she admitted, her initial confidence evaporating into the shadow of doubt. "Oh, sweet girl," I whispered, pulling her into an embrace, feeling her small body shake against mine. "It's okay to try. It's okay to fall." But inside, I was wrestling with my own fears, fear of the fall itself, and the haunting possibility that no amount of willpower or hope could alter our reality. As I held her, the warmth of her tiny form grounding my swirling emotions, I caught a glimpse of Samantha peeking from the doorway, worry etched across her face. Our eyes met for a fleeting moment, and I felt an uncomfortable mix of protectiveness and suspicion. What had her late-night conversation been about, and how had that translated into this moment of vulnerability for Lily? "I'll help you, I promise," I said, pulling back to look into my daughter's eyes and re-establish the tender connection that seemed momentarily lost. "But let's do it together, okay?" Lily's nod was tentative, as if she were trying to draw strength from my words. I stood up and moved toward her toy lying on the floor, an emblem of her determination. "Let's get it together." One step at a time, with each movement we made, Samantha stepped closer, her presence almost magnetic, radiating a quiet strength I both admired and questioned. "I'll be right here," she assured, and I saw that her gaze flickered between the two of us. There was something unspoken in her expression, something hinting at deeper connections. With each failed attempt, I gripped tighter to the fragments of hope that still flickered within me. I positioned Lily, encouraging her to take tentative steps from my outstretched arms. There was no denying the power of those small victories, the way her little feet would inch forward, hesitating and then daring to move again. But despite the warmth of the room and the sugary aroma of the cookies Samantha had baked earlier wafting through the air, I felt a cold knot tightening in my chest. I kept glancing at Samantha, wondering how much of this she had orchestrated, whether her secret conversations were shadows of a plan that might jeopardize everything we had begun to rebuild. With each new attempt, I could feel time stretching, the excitement needle-pricked by uncertainty. And just as Lily took a wobbly step that transformed into a wonky shuffle, I heard the unmistakable ring of my phone vibrating on the table in the hallway, a noise so alien in that sacred moment. My heart lurched. Would it be another ray of light, or would it plunge us into darkness? With a breath of reluctance, I turned, glancing briefly at Samantha as I stepped away from Lily. She watched me closely, shadows of doubt flickering in those striking blue eyes, but I needed to know. "Just a moment, sweetheart." I called back, my own voice shaky and uncertain, as I reached for the phone. The stress crawled under my skin as I saw the caller ID. It was my sister, the one person I hadn't wanted to speak to since all of this had begun. The moment stretched thin, each ring reverberating like a heartbeat echoing across the room. A split-second decision lay before me, heavy with meaning. Suddenly, I feared that the call might unearth deep family fissures I wasn't prepared to confront. Yet, at that moment, Lily was about to take another step, and the weight of that endeavor clashed with the pull of my past that I pressed the green button before I could reconsider. "Hello." I breathed, the chatter of my sister's voice spilling into the air. Before I could blink, everything shifted again. The world around me began to dissolve as news washed over me that would upend everything I thought I knew, a secret that threatened the ground beneath our feet, and in that delicate moment, as my sister's words wrapped around me like a choking vine, my heart sunk into an abyss of dread, leaving no doubt that the journey ahead would only become more treacherous. The room seemed to shrink as I stood frozen, the voice on the other end of the line breaking through my haze of uncertainty. "You need to listen to me," my sister insisted, each word tightening the knot in my chest. "It's about Mom." Those two words shook me to my core. I had spent so many years trying to distance myself from the chaos our mother unleashed on our family. I'd always promised myself that I would not let her shadows loom over Lily's life, yet here I was, her name clawing its way back into my existence. "What about her?" The coolness in my voice surprised even me. I needed facts, not cryptic messages draped in urgency. "She's not well. I can't do this alone. You have to come." "It's bad," she said, her voice wavering. The sincerity, laced with helplessness, reached me amidst the turmoil in my heart, threatening to flip my entire world upside down. Lily let out a small squeak from the other side of the room. I glanced back and there she was, teetering on the edge of victory and uncertainty as she took a shaky step toward her toy. "Mama!" she called out brightly, her pride bleeding through the lines of uncertainty carving her face, momentarily washing away the panic that had consumed me. "Hold on a second, okay?" I said sharply into the phone, feeling the claws of indecision tighten around my throat. My sister's voice, once a source of comfort, now grated against my nerves as she continued to plead her case that I know it's complicated, but you're the only one I can count on. Things aren't right at home, and she needs help. I can't get her to the doctor. You have to come. The weight of her desperation forced its way through my walls, but I couldn't shake the ugly threat lurking in the corners of my mind, the possibility that returning home could rip open old wounds, further fracturing the fragile stability I'd fought to build with Lily. Right when I was about to speak, I noticed Samantha's steady gaze on mine, her brow furrowed with concern that pulled me back, momentarily, from my chaotic thoughts. With an understanding nod, she adjusted her stance, reinforcing the steadiness I wanted to believe I could embody. Yet in my heart of hearts, I knew I was unraveling. "I can't just drop everything, Lila," I managed to say, but my voice lacked the conviction I craved. "What do you mean she's not well?" Each word felt like gravel grating against my insides. "It's serious. She's confused, and last week the tremor in her voice made it clear this wasn't just a bad cold or a fleeting episode, it was an unraveling of the same familial fabric that twisted our lives into chaos years ago. She doesn't remember you, or me." A wave of sickness rolled through my stomach. I dropped my head, squeezing my eyes shut while the phone slipped slightly from my grasp. This couldn't be happening. Confronting our past would be a poignant reminder of every broken bond, every dark secret that I had tried to shield Lily from. "Mommy, look. I'm walking." Lily's joyful voice abruptly pulled my attention back into the present, piercing through the veil of dread that had enveloped me. With determined effort, she had taken another wobbly step toward me, her eyes bright with faith. But could I afford to let the echoes of an unstable woman dictate Lily's future? "Lily." I called to her, my heart swelling with a mix of pride and fear. She was inching closer, her smile lighting up the dim room like morning sunshine breaking through the clouds. Every step was a small triumph, yet I felt an overwhelming desire to shield her from the storm still brewing in my life. "That I have to go, Lila," I whispered, pulling my phone away slightly. "Let me think." As I hung up, I felt the sudden weight of the decision, the choice to potentially plunge back into the shadows. As I looked toward Lily, still smiling and inching closer, Samantha shifted quietly, softly placing her hand on my shoulder. "You can do this. But remember, you are strong enough to navigate this, wherever it may lead." Her words were like an unexpected balm against the spreading jagged edges of fear. "Just a little longer, sweetheart," I encouraged Lily, holding my breath as she took yet another unsure step forward, glancing back at her makeshift support system, me on one end and Samantha on the other. But just then, a loud crash echoed from downstairs, rending the fragile calm. My blood ran cold as instinct kicked in, and I turned, my heart racing. "Stay here," I instructed Lily in a voice sharper than I intended, panic surging through me. A sudden chill swept through the air, and I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited me at the end of the staircase would shape everything that followed. As I reached the edge of the door, pausing for a breath, I felt a heaviness in my chest. This kindness from Samantha could not extinguish the flame of dread igniting inside me. And yet, somehow, that warmth seemed to flicker with a strange sense of hope, promising miracles even amidst encroaching darkness. But then it hit me, unmistakable clatter of something familiar, something that belonged to my past. My heart sank as the realization settled in. I knew that item well, and what it meant would unveil truths I wasn't prepared to face. This time, I didn't know if I could carry the burden. And as I steeled my resolve to confront whatever waited beyond the door, I realized my journey was far from over, it was only just beginning. The air felt thicker as I approached the edge of the staircase. Every step sent tremors through my body, grounding me in a reality that felt increasingly surreal. I had always considered myself a guardian, shielding Lily from shadows that had tormented me through childhood. Yet here I was, frozen, teetering on the precipice of uncertainty, knowing that something was about to unravel. As I leaned over the banister, I peered into the darkness below, the remnants of the crash still echoing in my ears. My heart raced as I felt a small surge of adrenaline, the kind that responds instinctively to danger, a remnant of the girl I once was who had learned to navigate the chaos. But was I able to bring my daughter into this, Mommy? Lily's voice broke through the silence, a fragile thread of innocence calling for me. Stay, I began, but her tiny frame made another bold attempt toward independence, each wobbly step a defiance of my fears. My heart swelled with a conflicting mixture of pride and concern. She needed me to be strong, but every heartbeat drummed out the urgency of my real-life dilemma echoing from below. Lily took another determined step forward, but I could not allow my gaze to linger on her triumph. It was almost unbearable. I felt like I was being torn in two, the mother who wanted to hold her daughter steady and the woman who was deeply afraid of the shadows rushing back into her life. That I forced myself down the stairs, cautious, as if the wooden steps could bear witness to my hesitation and fear. Each stride brought echoes of my childhood, moments etched in the grain of the wood. Memories flooded in, the laughter that once filled this space before it succumbed to despair. At the bottom of the stairs, I stepped into the dim light and found not chaos, but a toppled bookshelf. Shattered pieces of my past lay scattered across the floor, a few old family photos framed by dust and neglect. But it wasn't just a mess, it was a fractal of my history splintering into the present. I knelt, instinctively beginning to pick up the pieces, one faded photograph at a time. My fingers stroked the edges, half expecting them to morph into moments where the laughter still resonated. One particular image caught my eye, and I momentarily forgot everything swirling in my heart as recognition washed over me. It was a picture of our family trip at the beach, the sun so bright it almost eclipsed the sadness waiting in the background. Is that us, Mommy? Lily's small voice tugged me from my reverie, her footsteps trailing behind me. I swallowed hard, the warmth of her curiosity mixing with the chill of nostalgia. It was, sweetheart. A long time ago, I whispered, placing the photo aside. What happened? Her innocent inquiry pierced the fragile wall I had built around my past. Life happened. The words slipped out before I could recalibrate. But good things can come again. I glanced down to her hopeful eyes, searching for confirmation that everything might be okay. As I stood, my heart ached with complicity, the burden of the past threatening to drown out whatever hope glimmered in the present. I had to protect her, not just from the chaos that was our past, but from the specters that could still rise to haunt us in the future. Just then, the sudden clatter of footsteps reverberated through the hallway. I felt the air shift like a slow-moving current, and instinctively, my body tensed. It was Samantha, her freckled face flushed with urgency. "Are you okay?" she asked, concern shadowing her features as she appeared in the doorway. I heard a crash and thought, "I'm fine," I cut in, forced cheer masking the true turmoil within me. But her eyes narrowed as they scanned the scattered photographs. Interest piqued, she stepped forward. "You have these?" she asked, her voice softer, almost reverential, as if the photos contained stories she longed to understand. "I do," I said slowly. "But maybe this isn't the best time." "I love stories," she interjected. "What kind of family were you?" As I opened my mouth to respond, the air shifted again, a taut string of tension in the atmosphere caught my breath. It took only a moment of hesitation before I felt the familiar chill creeping down my spine, and I turned instinctively at the sound of footsteps. Just then, the front door creaked open. In that instant, I was transported back many years, a time when I fervently wished for someone to walk back through that threshold and help me reclaim the joy that had been stolen. Every lingering hope I had held on to collapsed like a house of cards, and in the doorway stood a figure blurred by the shadows, the face half hidden but unmistakable. A visage I had thought diminished to mere memory, now lurking back to stitch together threads long severed, unveiling truths that had thrived in the dark. "Mom." I breathed, shock twisting my insides, even as confused hope fluttered uncertainly in the aftermath. Lily, unaware of the ghosts creeping forth, reached for me, clinging tightly to my side, anchoring my spiraling thoughts. The frayed edges of my soul quivered in response to the woman I had once feared, a woman who bore the imperfections and heartache that chained our family. As she stepped into the light, my heart raced, caught in a web of tangled emotions. I had no idea what this moment would unleash, but deep down, I sensed the fragile peace I had desperately fought for was now hanging by a thread. The moment stretched, as if time itself had paused to witness the potential collision of my past and present. Each tick of the clock echoed loudly in my ears, reminding me how dangerously close I was to losing everything I had worked so hard to build. Lily's fingers tightened around my waist, her innocent eyes darting between me and the figure that loomed at the threshold. I felt as if the air around me had thickened, a palpable tension wrapping around us like an unwelcome embrace. That really you? I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. The words tasted foreign to me, heavy with longing and betrayal. I sought a friendly smile, a sign that perhaps the past had shifted in its perverse nature, but all I found was a ghost of familiarity mingled with apprehension. Anna, my mother's voice trembled, a haunting melody I had nearly forgotten. It carried with it the weight of untold stories and unreconciled emotions, yet the flicker of remorse I had sometimes seen in her faded eyes was now absent, replaced by determination. I came to see you. My heart waged war. I wanted to scream, to demand why, after all this time, she thought she could just waltz back into my life. But as I glanced at Lily still clinging to me as if I were her shield, the raw vulnerability radiating from my daughter silenced my anger. I took a breath, swallowed hard, and stepped forward. Why now? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. After everything we've been through? She hesitated, her gaze dropping momentarily to the floor piled with remnants of our past photos, broken dreams. I've changed, Anna. I am not that woman anymore, right? I said, the bitterness slipping from my lips before I could catch it. You weren't there when it mattered. I know, she replied, her voice a whisper woven through the heaviness between us. I've spent years trying to find a way back, to face the monsters I let govern my choices. A raindrop sounded against the window, the sky outside shifting as if mirroring the storm brewing within me. I looked at Lily, whose innocent gaze bounced between the two of us, confusion dancing in her big brown eyes. My daughter meant the world to me, she deserved stability and love. Here was this woman poised to disrupt the fragile peace I had built, and yet there was an undeniable flicker of hope in my mother's tone. Mom, what do you want from us now? I asked, my voice reducing to a fragile thread, unsure if I was more afraid of rejection or of reopening a chasm that might never again be bridged. I want to make amends, she spoke softly. To show you I can help. To be a part of Lily's life, to help you and to find my own redemption. There was desperation in her eyes, one that felt oddly familiar, as if I could see the little girl that still lived within her. A swirl of emotions crashed inside me, anger, rage, a glimmer of hope, and ceaseless questions. Why should I trust her? How could I possibly let this wounded woman back into our lives? Just then, a warm hand came to rest on my shoulder. It was Samantha. The freckled girl stood there silently, but the calm presence she exuded was grounding, tethering me to this moment, reminding me of the kindness that still existed around us. Her eyes held a quiet strength, urging me not to turn away from the unexpected. Lily tugged at my pant leg, indicating her growing interest. Mommy? She asked softly, her voice filled with childlike wonder. Can we give her a chance? She looked sad. Sadness surged within me, a mix of disbelief and dilemma. I knelt down to Lily, cupping her tiny face, yearning to shield her from the storm. Sweetheart, it's complicated. Complicated can be good, right? Samantha interjected, a gentle smile lighting her face, as if she could see through to the heart of the matter. She might be a part of your healing too, Anna. A chance to rewrite your story. Hope tinged with fear trembled in the atmosphere. My mind raced with possibilities, each one scarred by memories too painful to revisit. What if she hurts us again? Then we'll face it together, right? Samantha's steady sincerity brushed against my uncertainty, casting a small light into the darker corners of my heart. I glanced at my mother, who was watching, her expression a delicate mix of anxiety and anticipation. The flickering candle of possibility danced between us, and despite everything, I felt it tugging at me. Was I really willing to unveil this door to my past, inviting in the very person who could shatter the fragile peace or perhaps, help me reclaim it? My heart was a war-torn battlefield, yet the whisper of hope lingered, mingling with the air around us. As I turned back to my mother, ready to voice my fears, a sudden crash rang out from the rear of the house, sending shivers down my spine. The moment shattered, leaving me wide-eyed and frozen, once more caught between the past I couldn't escape and the uncertain future that loomed dangerously close. What was that? Lily squeaked, a quiver in her voice piercing my heart. Stay close. I commanded instinctively, drawing her nearer as instincts flared to life. The tension coiled tight within as I glanced at Samantha, a silent agreement forming between us. We had to confront whatever darkness this night had yet to reveal. And as my mother stepped closer, shadows creeping back, I couldn't shake the feeling that the layers of our history were about to entwine one last time. The air thickened with uncertainty as I stood frozen, heart racing in rhythm with the claustrophobic silence that shrouded the room. The echo of the crash still reverberated in my ears, each pulse heightening my protective instincts. I glanced at Lily, whose eyes were wide with alarm, and then back at Samantha, her face unwavering despite the palpable tension curling around us. Stay here, I instructed firmly, dropping to my knees in front of Lily and placing my hands on her small shoulders, grounding her in the present. No matter what happens, promise me you won't move. She nodded, her trust shimmering in the dim light, but my heart pounded with the knowledge that as her protector, I could only shield her so much. My mother lingered at the edge of my periphery, her figure half illuminated by the weak glow of the hallway light. Would she step forward to assist, or would her foreign presence serve as yet another obstacle in our fight for peace? What do you think it is? Samantha's question broke through my chaotic thoughts as she surveyed the shadows that lay beyond the room, her expression both cautious and alert. That I don't know, I admitted, a creeping sense of dread tightening like a vice around my chest. The house had been so still, so quiet, and the sudden disruption felt like an omen. I stood up slowly, instinct propelling me to investigate despite every other part of me urging to run and shield Lily indefinitely. As I took a step toward the doorway, my mother's voice, softer this time, reached me above the din of my racing thoughts. Let me help. If it's something dangerous, what could you possibly do, Mom? It slipped out raw and bitter. You left when I needed you the most. Her eyes shimmered with a depth of emotion, and for a fleeting moment, I felt the weight of her truth. Life had changed us both. Amid the confrontation of our pasts, a flicker of vulnerability shone through. Let me at least be here. The fire in her voice rekindled something long suppressed within me, a need for connection amidst this chaotic landscape. Before I could respond, a second thud echoed, louder this time. My heart thundered in my chest, and urgency propelled me into motion. We have to check it out. Samantha stepped beside me, her hand brushing mine as she mouthed a silent reassurance. Together, we crept toward the sound, heartbeats sinking in a rhythm of solidarity. As I reached the hallway, a flicker of light caught my attention, a glow dancing ominously from the living room. I hesitated, memories flooding in, a lifetime of pain tainted by fear. But if my mother wanted redemption, it was time for action, not invisible walls. Pushing the door open, I was met with an unsettling sight: overturned furniture, scattered toys, and an open window that swayed precariously in the chilling night breeze. My heart raced as I felt the rush of dread. Something had disturbed our peace, and every instinct screamed to retreat. Lily's small voice broke through the fog of fear. Mommy, I don't like this. I want to go back. Her plea clung to me, wrapping around my heart in a tight embrace. Before I could respond, a figure emerged into the light, stumbling slightly, eerily familiar and utterly unexpected. It was Jake, my old friend from high school, the wild spirit who always sought adventure as a distraction from the turbulence of his home life. Anna. He gasped, struggling to find his footing as he steadied himself against the doorframe. Shock gripped me as I took an involuntary step back. What are you doing here? I heard something strange, he panted, casting hurried glances between us before landing on my mother, who was standing behind me. Is everything okay? Clearly, it is not, I snapped, still reeling from the sight of him. This was not the time to be thinking of the careless boy I once knew. My entire world threatened to crumble, and yet here he was. "Chu just wanted to check," he stammered, a hint of the boy I remembered breaking through. "I thought you might need help. I'm sorry." "Help?" The word fell flat on my tongue like a stone dropped in still water, each ripple resonating with the churning undercurrents of my emotions. "We don't need your help, Anna." Samantha's gentle reminder broke through my defensive thoughts. "He might be able to assess what happened. We literally have no idea what feller who was watching." Lily clutched my leg tighter, and for a moment, I battled with my feelings. My history with Jake was one mixed with youthful promises and faded dreams. "Why now?" "Because I care." "I have always cared," he said, his own vulnerability radiating towards me as his words unfolded. "Just let me help, please." "In what way?" My skepticism dripped like poison, coloring every interaction with the weight of forgotten trust. My mother's frail presence hovered close. One half of me wanted to shield her from this confrontation while the other part of me longed for clarification on how my world had shifted so dramatically. "Let's just figure out what happened together," Jake offered slowly. "If someone or something is obstructing your peace, I promise I'll stand by you this time." Craving assurance, I studied the fragile expressions around me. Lily, still gripping my leg, Samantha, her unwavering support offering genuine warmth, and my mother, a hesitant specter of the past. All these emotions collided within me, begging for an answer. Hesitant and vulnerable, the prospect of unity surfacing amongst chaos sparked a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe we could unravel this together and gather the loose threads of our pasts. But as I considered his suggestion, a sudden realization hit me like ice: the dark shadows of our shared history had the potential to resurrect old ghosts. Was I prepared to carry that burden? Just as the weight of this uncertainty settled in my chest, the lights flickered, the power momentarily waning before plunging us into unexpected darkness. A breath clamored in my throat as silence engulfed us, the heaviness of what lay ahead looming like a predator in the dark. "Something is here," I whispered, heart racing. All trust one had just begun to rebuild teetered on the edge of that moment. I glanced back at the others, uncertainty gripping my soul, each face lit by an eerie glow from a candle perched precariously on the edge of the hallway table. And as I turned back to the shadows, the essence of dread coursing through my veins, I realized that this thread of hope may unravel faster than I could hold on. The silence that enveloped the room was suffocating, weighing down on us like a shroud. My heart thudded against my chest, each beat reverberating with the terrifying thought of the unknown. The shadowy corners of the room felt alive, shifting like dark waves in a stormy sea. "Anna, maybe we should," Samantha's soft voice faltered, and I could hear the fear behind her words. A part of me wanted to reassure her, but the sudden darkness and uncertainty gnawed at my resolve. "Stay close," I urged, reaching out instinctively to take Lily's small hand in mine. Her grip was tiny, yet it wrapped around my fingers like a lifeline, anchoring me in this tumultuous moment. I turned to Jake, who shuffled nervously in the doorway, flickering candlelight casting shadows across his face. "What do you know about what's going on?" My voice emerged steadier than I felt, desperate for clarity amidst chaos. "That I don't know much," he admitted, his blue eyes searching mine, but there was an intensity in his gaze, a reminder that, like me, he was no stranger to darkness. "I was just drawn here. I thought if something was wrong, maybe I could help." I glanced at my mother, lingering just outside the threshold, her expression a haphazard tapestry of regret and hope. The split second I caught her gaze, a flash of understanding flickered between us, both searching for redemption in different ways, both haunted by our choices. The weight of it settled in my chest, as heavy as the air around us. "That I don't know if I can trust you, Jake." Each word slipped from my lips like a fragile promise, a barrier I couldn't quite tear down. The turmoil of our past echoed in my mind. A whirlwind of laughter turned to silence, glances of loved ones turned to remnants of sorrow. "I get it. But trust me when I say, if it's something threatening you, we can face it together." His earnestness was palpable, and it shook something loose within me, a glimmer of that boy who had once fought battles alongside me, who had whispered secrets of courage and dreams of escaping our reality. Jake's words hung in the air, a threading hope unraveling in the darkness. But just as I felt myself leaning toward the possibility of collaboration, the room trembled with an unseen force. A cold draft swept through the hallway, causing the candle to flicker violently before threatening to snuff itself out. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw it, a fleeting shadow, darting just beyond the living room door. My heart stopped, panic surging forward. "Did you see that?" I gasped, gripping Lily's hand tighter. Jake locked eyes with me, fear and determination mingling in his expression. "I did. We need to check it out. No." Lily screamed, pulling away momentarily. Tears brimmed in her wide eyes, her voice piercing through the confused fog. "I don't want to go in there. I want to go home." I knelt down, wrapping my arms around her tiny frame. "Sweetheart, I know it's scary. But we're going to be okay. You have to trust me." Through the haze of terror, I could feel Jake shifting beside me, but the moment brought up the clash of unresolved feelings for him. He may have stood ready to support us, yet the embers of betrayal still burned within me, leaving the scars of our past exposed. As I comforted Lily, I caught a glimmer from the other side of the room. Otherworldly light flickered like fireflies above a framed photo. My breath hitched in my throat. There, perfectly illuminated, was a photograph of us at a happier time, the laughter caught in the frozen moment almost enough to quell the fears swirling within. "Let's go look at it," Samantha whispered, always the steady one, her voice encouraging like a bomb. In that moment, despite everything, I was reminded of the warmth that friendship could bring. With Lily still wary but calm in my embrace, we edged forward. The flickering light drew us closer, a siren call to something that could serve as answers or deeper questions. Jake hovered protectively behind, a ghost of our shared past. As we approached, the light intensified, bathing us in a gentle glow, revealing not just memories captured in the frame, but strange symbols etched into the wall behind it, glowing an ominous green. A language lost to time. "What is this?" I breathed, feeling dread wash over me, a nagging sense of foreboding blooming once again. Jake stepped closer, visibly shaken. "I don't know. But it doesn't feel right." A chill crept up my spine as I turned to look at my mother, who had finally stepped inside the foyer. Her eyes widened at the sight before us, and anguish flickered across her features. "We shouldn't be here." "Why? What do you know?" I demanded, my voice thin but fervent. But before she could respond, the shadows erupted again, twisting and writhing like tendrils reaching for life. A piercing scream echoed in the distance, so visceral it made my stomach lurch. "Mommy!" Lily shrieked, her cries piercing the encroaching dark as I yanked her close, but I was paralyzed, caught between the echoes of the past and the enigmatic threat we now faced. In that moment, everything spiraled, the air thick with despair, and the realization hit me harder than any blow: whatever was coming for us was well beyond our history. And as I watched the shadows swirl, my heart sank. The future I had clung to might be lost before we could ever rebuild what we needed to be whole. The shadows danced threateningly around us, twisting into shapes that seemed too vivid to be mere figments of my imagination. I kept Lily close, my heart racing with a mix of terror and determination. "We need to move," I whispered urgently, though my voice trembled slightly. Jake looked to Samantha as uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "We can't just stand here. We need a plan." I could barely breathe, the air thick and suffocating, but it was the point of no return now. "There's a back door," I suggested, glancing at my mother with desperation. "We can escape through the kitchen." But she shook her head, her features etched with fear. "That won't work. Whatever is behind us will find us. It's not safe anywhere." Tension seeped through the room like a relentless chill, wrapping around us and tightening with each fleeting moment. I noticed Lily cowering against my side, her tiny body radiating fear, and it tore at me. "Hold on tight, sweetheart. We're going to be okay," I whispered, forcing steadiness into my voice as I stroked her hair gently. Jake's fingers brushed against my arm. "Anna, we need to confront this. Hiding won't help." The shadows flickered, a breath of movement disturbing the air, and the walls seemed to vibrate with unspeakable energy. It was as if the very foundation of our past threatened to collapse, taking every shred of hope with it. My mind raced, torn between the instinct to protect and the knowledge that ignoring this chaos would only lead to greater loss. With an unsteady breath, I reassured myself, "You're not alone in this. We can face whatever this is together." Samantha caught my eye, her steady presence like a lighthouse in stormy waters. "Look." She pointed urgently at the walls, where the glowing symbols shifted in response to our presence. "Maybe they're the key to understanding what's happening." Lily's grip tightened in response to the rising tension, and I squeezed her hand back, emboldened by the flicker of hope in Samantha's voice. "If we know what these mean." I trailed off, eager to discover more, yet fear held me back, but before I could rally the courage to approach further, a figure emerged from the shadows, distinct yet ethereal, an old woman with wild silver hair and piercing green eyes that glimmered with chaotic wisdom. A gasp escaped me, and the room fell into a profound silence that felt as heavy as the night sky. "Beware the curse that binds you," she spoke, her voice echoing through the darkness with a haunting melody. "Your threads are entwined in a tapestry of grief, one that can tear through the fabric of your souls. Who are you?" I asked, my voice shaking but fierce enough to convey the urgency of our plight. She stepped closer, her face illuminated by the erratic light that danced upon the walls. "A guardian of memories long forgotten. You seek truth, but to uncover it, you must face the shadows of your past. The symbols hold the keys, but their knowledge is both a gift and a curse." Jake turned to me, bewildered. "What does that even mean?" I didn't have the answers, but I felt an intense connection to the woman, as if she held pieces of the puzzle I needed to unravel. "We need to understand these symbols," I said, voice resolute. "If they can reveal something we haven't seen." "Careful, Anna," my mother chimed in, her voice low and steady with an undercurrent of panic. "The past you seek could be more damaging than you realize." "Perhaps there's a reason for that," the old woman interjected, her eyes sharp. "The past must be reconciled, for it cloaks your future in uncertainty. Only together can the threads of love and grief create a new beginning." But just as clarity started to take root, the cacophony of screams echoed once more, this time closer, more visceral, and all-consuming dread that wrapped around us like a vice. "Please. We need to go." Lily cried again, her little body trembling against me. The old woman's gaze reflected a depth of sorrow that wrapped around my heart. "To reclaim what was lost, you must brave the storm. But I cannot guide you completely. The heart has to open the door willingly, or else the past will repeat itself." That I locked eyes with Jake. What if we finally faced it? All those years of hurt, betrayal, and regret, it could set us free. "Are you sure you're ready?" he asked, vulnerability and strength blending in his tone. That I wasn't sure of anything, but courage ignited within me as I held my daughter tight. For Lily, "I'll do anything that I." In that moment, the room trembled as if responding to my declaration. The symbols on the wall burst to life, swirling like fiery constellations, their glow revealing glimpses of our shared history intertwined with shadows. Ideas clicked into place, memories surfaced, brimming with unresolved emotions, and then, everything froze. The woman's face turned grave, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "The choice is before you, Anna. But know this, once you open the door, there will be no turning back." Suddenly, the shadows surged, becoming more than mere darkness as the screams crescendoed into a cacophonous symphony of despair. I felt a pull toward the glowing symbols, the warmth of understanding simmering on the other side. It flickered like a beacon, shimmering with promise or peril. Before I could grasp the gravity of my next action, I stepped forward, heart pounding like a war drum. And just as my fingers brushed against the symbols, reality cracked open like the surface of still water, and I realized this was no mere encounter. What lay ahead was a confrontation with my own demons, and I was about to embark on a devastating journey to reclaim what I thought was lost, forever. But then the screams shifted again, morphing into a child's voice, one I recognized instantly, and within that chilling moment, I realized the terrifying truth. It was my own voice echoing back, a reminder that the ghosts of regret would haunt me until I finally reckoned with them. The echoes of my past collided with the present in a way I could never have anticipated, a whirlwind of emotions surfacing as trauma intertwined with hope. As I stood there, trembling, the chilling realization sank deeper. I was ready to confront everything that had haunted me. For Lily, the mantra anchored me with resolve, wrapping around my heart like a warm embrace. Mommy. Lily's voice emerged through the suffocating waves of sound, slicing through my internal battleground. I turned to her, my heart constricting at the sight of her fear. Please, don't be scared, I whispered, kneeling before her, my hands resting on her small shoulders. You are the reason I fight, the light guiding me through this darkness. The warmth of her trust seeped into my bones, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this tumultuous storm. I rose, determination flooding my veins. We can face this together, I said, casting a glance at Jake and Samantha, who stood steadfast beside me. Facing the swirling shadows encroaching upon us, I felt the creeping weight of vulnerability, but it was swiftly overshadowed by an unwavering courage ignited from within. That I know these symbols mean something, I shouted into the chaos. They represent our pain, our journey, and the love that binds us all. Whatever nightmare is waiting on the other side, we will unravel it, together. With one last glance at my mother, who stepped out from the shadows, I felt the weight of generations pressing down upon years of unspoken words and silent cages holding us captive. Do you want to face this with me? Can we rewrite our story? I implored her, the plea born from a place of desperate hope. Her expression shifted, and for a moment, I saw the woman I had longed for all my life, the mother who could reclaim her role, the matriarch who could finally heal the wounds she had inflicted. Tears brimmed in her eyes as she nodded slowly, the battle of acceptance quietly raging within her. I want that, she whispered, a tremor in her once authoritative voice. More than anything, I want to help you and Lily. With a deep breath, I turned back toward the glowing symbols, their light pulsating with urgency. Let's begin. As I reached out, fingers grazing the surface of the intricate designs, every fiber of my being ignited with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Suddenly, the room darkened further, shadows swirling violently as if stirred by a cyclone. The air crackled with tension, vibrating against my skin, and I could hear the fearful whispers of lost souls swirling within. Push it open. Samantha shouted, her fierce determination cutting through the chaos as she lifted her chin, bravery shining in her eyes. I was reminded of her unwavering support, how she had transformed our lives. Lily's grip tightened around my leg, yet in that moment, she, too, seemed to understand the necessity of confronting the tide of our history. With one final forceful thrust, I pressed solidly against the glowing symbols, and an explosion of light erupted around us, a brilliant cascade that lit the darkness like a supernova. It pushed through the shadows, expanding outward and dismantling the sinister presence that had loomed over our lives. I could feel the voices melding into a harmonious blend, their chaos transforming into understanding, grief morphing into acceptance. The cacophony peeled away, leaving only the warmth of light surrounding us. We all stood there, suspended in serenity as the shadows withdrew. Clarity flooded my mind, and I recognized the memories etched into the air, the moments gathered like fragile petals swirling in a breeze, promising to return us to a place where love could blossom once more. In that moment, I felt the echoes of my own childhood stirring within me. The weight of sorrow began to lift, unraveling the tightness in my chest. I turned to my mother, her expression softened by the light of newfound understanding. Mom, I forgive you, I breathed, emotion thick in my throat, the release palpable in the air. I want us to heal. Tears streamed down her face as she took a step closer. I'm so sorry, Anna. Ready to forgive myself, too. I want to be part of who you and Lily can become. Just then, the crackle of energy shifted once more, drawing our attention to Lily, who was gazing wide-eyed at the brilliant light enveloping the room. Mommy, it's so bright! She exclaimed, each word a melody that danced around us, lifting the collective burdens we had carried for far too long. Close your eyes, sweetheart, I said softly, kneeling to her level, my heart swelling with pride. This is a moment of healing, a chance for us to step forward together, letting go of the pain. As she complied, shimmering light wrapped around us like a gentle embrace. Holding her close, I closed my own eyes, the warmth surrounding us infusing every cell in my body with hope. The past would always be a part of us, woven into the fabric of who we were, but it no longer had to define our future. Moments stretched like infinity, the light softening into a warm glow that felt like a promise. And when I opened my eyes, everything had shifted. The shadows had transformed into a shimmering tapestry that shimmered before us, illuminating not just the paths we had walked, but the radiant beauty of what lay ahead. That I turned to my mother, Jake, and Samantha, who stood by my side, their faces radiating newfound clarity. "We can rewrite our story. We can do this together," I affirmed, the echoes of hope brightening the path forward. As I embraced Lily, a serene tranquility settled within me. Together, we had faced the depths of our pain and emerged as something entirely new, a family reborn from the ashes of grief. "From this day forward, let this be our new beginning," I declared to the room, our hearts intertwined like the threads of a tapestry, ready to face whatever lay ahead together. And in that moment of intense resolution, as the light danced around us in celebration of the rebirth, I understood that sometimes, losing our way is the first step toward truly finding ourselves. "Everything will be all right," I whispered to myself, pulling Lily closer. In the embrace of those simplest words lay the power of renewal and the promise of a brighter tomorrow, a testament to the strength of love forged through trials and the unwavering belief that even in the darkest shadows, hope could always shine through.